The Grand Canyon is not only a colossal canyon, but also one of the most mysterious places on Earth. From gruesome corpses to a discovery that shakes America's official settlement history to its foundations, you won't believe the stunning things that have already been uncovered here. The finds and stories we're about to show you will take your breath away. Is there any truth to the mystical stories of the natives after all? Stay tuned and see for yourself. The Sacred Gorge. About 450 kilometers long and up to 1,800 meters deep, what we consider one of the most fascinating natural wonders on Earth, and attracts millions of visitors every year, has an even higher status among the Native Americans. Located in northern Arizona, the gigantic canyon served as home to the first inhabitants more than 3,000 years ago. Among the indigenous tribes that settled here over time were the Anasazi and the Hopi. Some Havasupai Indians even reside in the Grand Canyon to this day. The Havasupai consider the canyon a supernatural gateway, which can lead to heaven as well as to hell. The Colorado River, which over millions of years has eaten into the rock of the Colorado Plateau, forming the Grand Canyon, also plays a fundamental role in the religious beliefs of the Indians. According to this belief, the river has a sacred power. Whoever washes himself in it can wash away all his problems and fears. Apart from that, the Colorado River has served as an important source of water and food, as well as a transportation route. Exciting sensational find. When did the first humans arrive in America? And what was the subsequent settlement history like in detail? An absolutely sensational find that experts recorded a few months ago in the White Sands National Park is now helping us get one step closer to answering this exciting question. Until now, the majority of researchers still assumed that the sites tracked down so far are almost 16,000 years old. Some even believe that our ancestors reached the continent only 13,000 years ago. The unique footprints at White Sands, however, now suggest a significantly early arrival date. The age of the prints discovered in some ancient riverbeds, for example, is put at a whopping 23,000 years. Or in other words, we have to backdate our previous assumptions about the settlement of the Americas a full 10,000 years. To determine the age of the footprints, Jeff Pagatti and Kathleen Springer of the U.S. Geological Survey performed radiocarbon dating of the surrounding seed layers. In detail, the respective tracks show varying ages, with the oldest having been pressed into the ground as early as 23,000 years ago. These silent witnesses also give us a direct insight into the era of that time. In detail, the footprints are mainly made by children and adolescents, while those of adults are much less common. While the people of that era are often considered functional hunters and survivor fighters, we are clearly dealing here with the playful encounter of different age groups, according to the experts. In addition, traces of mammoths, giant sloths, wolves, and birds have also been traced at the White Sands. For scientists, the site is therefore of exceptional significance, showing how humans once interacted with animals that are now extinct. Sad corpse discovery. In July 2021, Hungarian Gabor Berci Tomcsányi mysteriously disappeared in the Grand Canyon. After initially checking into a hotel in Las Vegas, the 45-year-old headed to Arizona by car to marvel the gigantic canyon with his own eyes. While the car was quickly tracked down, there was no trace of Gabor, and after some time without any sign of life, his worried family filed a missing persons report with the police. Officers then published a photo of the man and asked the public for help. But sad news was to hit the headlines on August 25th. According to the news, a lifeless body of a man was discovered in the Grand Canyon, which sadly matched the description of the missing man perfectly. Recovered 130 meters below Yavapai Point. Gabor lived in Hong Kong and loved to explore the world. Officials suspect he died as a result of a fall. However, this was by no means the only body found recorded in the Grand Canyon during this period, because in fact, the rescue workers also came across the remains of another person as part of their search. While the crew was actually scouring the area for Gabor, they completely and unexpectedly recovered the body of Scott Walsh. The latter had last been seen in 2015, just as he was leaving a shuttle bus on the southern edge of the national park. While the backpack was discovered soon after, its owner had disappeared off the face of the earth for 6 years. While the relatives of the deceased now have a faint comfort of certainty, many other families are still waiting to learn the fate of their loved ones. Currently, 8 people are still considered missing in the Grand Canyon. The missing millennia. For geologists, a visit to the Grand Canyon is always like a breathtaking journey back in time. Climbing down the rock walls of the massive canyon, one can travel nearly 2 billion years into the past. However, there is an inexplicable time gap in the natural rock record of the canyon. Because in fact, some places rock layers that are over 1 billion years old have just disappeared from the geological record. However, the Grand Canyon is by no means the only place that exhibits this puzzling circumstance. In truth, the so-called Great Unconformity exists in many different rock formations around the world. So far, experts have no idea what the background of the geological bald spots is all about. But a new study could help to finally crack this tantalizing mystery. The researchers of the University of Colorado in Boulder assume of what we have here is the result of small but violent faults. These would have torn open the earth around the Grand Canyon so that the rock and sediments were washed away into the ocean. The spectacle took place when the supercontinent Rodinia broke apart 750 to 633 million years ago. The scientists reached this conclusion by using the technique called thermochronology, which analyzes the evolution of heat in rocks. Geological formations that lie dormant deep beneath the surface can heat up due to the pressure exerted on them. This heat development always leaves characteristic signatures, which the experts can identify afterwards. The corresponding analysis showed that the western and eastern halves of the Grand Canyon were subject to different geological faults. While the bedrock in the western part is 1.4 to 1.8 billion years old, the overlying layers have an age of only 520 million years old. The Ancient Egyptians. You wonder what the ancient Egyptians should have to do with the Grand Canyon? Well, to understand this, we should briefly look at 2 newspaper articles that appeared in 1909, sometimes in the Arizona Gazette and sometimes in the Phoenix Gazette, depending on the source. The first report tells us about an explorer named Kincaid, in the employ of the Smithsonian Institute, who recorded an interesting archaeological discovery on the Colorado River. But while the first article is stingy with further details, the second describes something that simply cannot be reconciled with our common view of history. Kincaid is said to have come across a hidden site in the Grand Canyon that was created by none other than the ancient Egyptians. In fact, the secret cave complex was almost like a fully blown city, overflowing with hieroglyphs, copper implements, ceremonial figures, and even mummies. In view of the enormous dimensions with which the tunnels, passages, and caves came along, Kincaid estimated that once 50,000 people lived there. The more astonishing seems therefore the fact that the ancient Egyptian site in the Grand Canyon should be mentioned henceforth never again. Well, not few people justify this with the fact that such a wondrous place never existed in truth. But others think it's more likely that the story was deliberately removed from the public consciousness. According to them, the Smithsonian Institute is known for sweeping all discoveries that do not coincide with the official historical picture meticulously under the carpet. The exciting question is whether this is really just a kind of a joke, or whether, contrary to expectations, there might be something to this discovery. There is no question that the natural wonder is bursting with caves. But how on earth did the Egyptians manage to travel to another end of the world and settle in a place they must not have known existed? Is it possible that Kincaid was mistaken in his interpretation of the site? Well, that seems quite conceivable. However, the Indians were less rather known for mummifying their dead and inscribing ancient Egyptian characters on the cave walls. If one follows the opinion of the Smithsonian, then the newspaper article of that time belongs at best in the waste bin. Not only did the mission in question never take place, no, There was never a man named Kincaid who worked for the famous research institution. Even the exciting fact that the hidden city is said to lie dormant in an area closest to the public would not change that. A cover-up, a dramatic misrepresentation, or just a joke that a newspaper editor had with his readers. The truth may lie somewhere in between. And with that, thank you for watching our video to the end. Feel free to hit the like and subscribe buttons to support us for free and stay up to date at the same time. Before you take a look at the other videos in the credits, we'd like to ask your opinion. What do you think about the exciting things that have already appeared in the Grand Canyon? Have you visited the mighty canyon yourself? What experiences did you have on your trip?